The house felt like it had stopped breathing. Not the kind of silence that wraps around you gently, like a warm night. No, this was the silence that digs into your skin, crawls under it, and buries itself deep where it can echo loud, but with no sound. The kind of quiet that shows up after something has broken and no one's ready to admit it. I sat there on the edge of our oversized bed, still wearing my jeans and shirt from earlier like I'd just been handed a sentence I wasn't ready for. The clock beside me blinked a dull 11:42 p.m. in red. One side of the bed, hers, was untouched. Cold. Untouched because she hadn't come to bed. Again. Her name's Rachel. And lately, she barely even bothers pretending anymore. The bedroom smelled faintly of lavender, our detergent, but also of something more sterile. Like the scent of absence. It hadn't always been like this. These walls once held late-night giggles, whispered jokes no one else would understand, sleepy Sunday mornings tangled under blankets and wrapped in each other. No. It was all habit. Distance. That soft rustle when she walked by me without a word. That had become louder than any fight. I pushed myself up slowly, careful like the whole house might fall apart if I moved too quickly. My bare feet sank into the thick hallway carpet as I walked toward the soft flickering light from the living room. There she was, Rachel, curled up on the far side of the couch, knees tucked beneath her like a teenage girl avoiding her parents, scrolling her phone with clinical detachment. She didn't even glance up when I stopped at the doorway. The distance between us felt like a canyon. "You coming to bed?" I asked, my voice low, trying not to sound as hollow as I felt. Her thumb never stopped moving. "I've got a reel to finish editing," she said, barely audible. "Of course. A reel." Another carefully curated sliver of our not-so-picture-perfect life, polished and packaged for the 500,000 people who thought they knew her. "It's almost midnight," I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. "I know," she replied. "Just a few more minutes." I stood there for another beat, hearing those same 5 words she always used. Just a few more minutes. That had become the lullaby of our disconnection. And still, what could I say? That I missed her. That sharing a bed with someone emotionally 1,000 miles away was starting to crush me? That I couldn't remember what it felt like to hold her hand? I didn't say any of that. I just turned around and walked back down the hallway, retreating into the shell of our bedroom. The next morning was like all the others. Silent. Robotic. We moved around each other like trained dancers, hitting our marks but never touching. She left first, planting a half-hearted air kiss near my cheek, just enough to say, "I did my part." I watched her car back out from the kitchen window, my hands gripping my coffee mug until my knuckles turned pale. Work that day was my refuge. Security systems. Encryption models. Risk assessments. I buried myself in that world because data doesn't lie, and behavior, well, that could be decoded. Unlike emotions. Unlike marriage. After dinner that night, which was as silent and flavorless as the ones before, something different happened. I got an email. The sender. No name I recognized. Just a subject line, "You deserve to know." I hovered over it. Everything in me screamed phishing scam, but something else, something more primitive, deep in my gut, told me to open it. The message was short. Just one line, "They lied. You know it. Deep down, you already know." And there was a video file. I stared at it for a long time, the cursor trembling like it understood this was a before and after moment. I clicked play. At first, just black. Then the screen faded in, dim lighting, music pulsing low, muffled laughter, and bodies. Movement. Faces. Then her. Rachel. And my entire world stopped. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the laptop. I didn't move. I just sat there in the dark, in a house that had finally made sense in its silence. I didn't even blink. The video kept playing, the images dancing across the screen like ghosts caught in flame. The audio was muffled but clear enough. Laughter. Voices blurred by wine and intimacy. The kind of atmosphere that only happens when someone's given themselves up fully, without shame, without guilt. Rachel was right in the middle of it. My wife. 9 years married. Her hair loose. Her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen since our early days. Not flushed from embarrassment, but something else. hunger, freedom. She didn't move like the woman who'd been turning away from me night after night. No, this version of Rachel was alive. Unshackled. Someone I didn't recognize. And then, the camera moved too quickly, most faces smeared into nothing, but one face, just one, snapped into sharp focus. That grin. Those eyes. I knew them. Tyler. My best friend. The guy who stood next to me on my wedding day, who toasted our marriage like it meant something. The same man who shared foxholes with me overseas, who once said, "You're the only guy I trust to watch my six." A slow wave of cold settled over me, deeper than anger. Betrayal like that doesn't burn, it freezes. I shut the laptop quietly. My breathing came slow, like I was holding it underwater. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just started piecing together all the moments I had ignored. That girl's weekend in Palm Springs. The perfume she never wore around me. The late-night returns with breath soaked in wine and excuses. It had all been there. I just didn't want to see it. I headed to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and grabbed a bottle of water. My fingers twisted the cap so tight I thought it might snap. I stood there for a moment, staring out into the backyard like it might offer some kind of answer. There it was, the old wooden swing I built for Rachel's birthday years ago. It still hung in the same spot, swaying gently in the breeze like it didn't realize no one had touched it in years. Like it didn't know it had become a relic. I took a long drink, slow and steady, and then set the bottle down on the counter with a soft tap that somehow felt too loud in that heavy silence. Then I walked to the garage. In the back corner, there's this old drawer that hadn't been opened in years. Covered in dust. Inside was a hard drive, one I used back when I did freelance security work for a defense contractor. It still worked. I plugged it into my laptop and started copying the video over. Backups. Always make backups. My hands moved without thinking, like muscle memory was taking over. But my mind was racing. Not with anger, yet, but with realization. All the pieces that hadn't made sense before, now they clicked. I wasn't just watching betrayal unfold. I was dissecting it. I renamed the file. Called it the sixth door. Because that's how many doors the camera passed before revealing that room. 5 closed. The sixth one, wide open. And inside, everything that tore my world to pieces. I leaned back in my chair, bathed in the glow of the laptop screen, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't fury. It wasn't heartbreak. It was sharper, colder, clarity. She thought I'd never figure it out. I saved the file. And that's when everything started to change. The next morning, it looked the same on the outside. The same empty rhythm. The same stale routine. But I was different. I wasn't sleepwalking through it anymore. I watched her, Rachel, move through the kitchen like she always did. Everything perfectly timed. She poured oat milk into her smoothie, tapped open her phone with her thumb, the other hand stirring almond butter into the blender. The whir of the motor covered the silence between us, but it didn't mask the truth. She hadn't looked at me once. Used to hurt. Now it just confirmed everything. I sat at the table with my coffee, untouched, eyes following her every move. Not with love. Not anymore. But with attention. Study. She was wearing that gray sweatshirt I bought her on our anniversary, 3 years ago. The one with the little tear in the sleeve. She'd always said it was too cozy to toss. I used to think that was sweet. Now it just felt like a reminder. A symbol of how she'd kept what she liked and discarded the rest. I cleared my throat. She jumped, just a little, but enough for me to notice. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked, her eyes still glued to her screen. I paused, then nodded. "I passed out early." She gave a distracted hum. "That reel from yesterday's blowing up. I'm getting flooded with messages." Of course she was. "I'm sure you are," I said, and I kept my tone flat, too flat. That's what finally made her look up at me. She searched my face like it was written in a language she didn't understand anymore. And maybe it was. Because I'd finally learned how to wear the mask she'd been hiding behind for years. I finished my coffee, stood up, placed the mug in the sink, and walked out without another word. She opened her mouth like she was about to say something, but nothing came. The blender roared again. I left for work 5 minutes early. Except I didn't go to the office. Instead, I drove out to a quiet overlook near the coast, parked the car, opened my laptop on the passenger seat, and hit play on the 6th door again. The first time, I'd watched it like I'd been stabbed. This time, I watched like a surgeon. I paused, zoomed in, caught every angle. Every frame told me something new. And Tyler, my so-called best friend, he wasn't just lurking in the background. He was at the center. Loud. Comfortable. Like he belonged there. Like this wasn't the first time. I opened another tab. Pulled up old email accounts, buried cloud storage files, messaging apps she probably forgot I still had access to. She had changed her passwords. But not often enough. Breadcrumbs were everywhere. There were aliases. Deleted pictures, ones that weren't deleted well enough. Payment logs. Venmo charges labeled group dinner. A wine emoji. Time-stamped to the same night as the video. A shared calendar entry. Cabin night. No phones. Winking face. My chest felt like it was filling with ice water. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a routine. A hidden life she crafted in the shadows. And Tyler? He'd looked me in the eyes so many times. Called me brother. Saved my life once. I would have done the same for him in a heartbeat. But he didn't just cross the line. He studied the line, smiled at it, then bulldozed right over like it never meant a damn thing. I didn't feel rage. I felt precision. The puzzle wasn't finished yet. But I was closing in. That evening, I came home like I always did. Same driveway. Same front door. Same house that didn't feel like home anymore. Rachel was already inside, curled up on the couch, lights dimmed, some documentary playing quietly in the background, though we both knew neither of us cared what it was about. She scrolled through her phone like it was the only thing tethering her to reality. I stood there in the doorway, watching her. "Did you see what I posted today?" she asked, voice light and casual, like nothing was wrong. "No," I said flatly. "Been a busy day." She tilted her head. "You okay? You seem, I don't know, off." I stepped further into the room. Calm. Not angry. Just present. "I know about the cabin," I said. She froze. Her body didn't move, but her fingers stopped mid-scroll. Like the phone suddenly weighed too much to hold. I took another step. The video. The messages. The 6th door. She opened her mouth, just a little. Not in denial. More like recognition. Like a lie caught in her throat that couldn't breathe anymore. "I've seen it," I said softly. "All of it." She didn't scream. Didn't break down. Just sat there, hollow and still. "You weren't supposed to," she stuttered. I raised a hand. Not to intimidate. Just to say I was done listening. "Don't." Her voice cracked. It didn't mean anything. I turned, slow and deliberate. "You spent 6 years building a wall between us," I said. "And then you left the door open for someone else." And with that, I walked out of the room. Not angry. Not loud. Just done. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. The house felt like a hollow shell now, all its illusions stripped away. The photos on the hallway walls looked different. Not like memories, but like props. Forced smiles. Eyes pretending. Sometime past midnight, I found myself in the garage again. I pulled out an old army duffel bag, one I hadn't touched in years. Inside were notebooks, hard drives, things I had kept, not because I was sentimental, but because instinct never really retires. A man trained to spot risk never stops seeing shadows. I took out a small encrypted USB drive, the kind with fingerprint access. It clicked open like it had been waiting for this moment. I connected it to my laptop and loaded up the video, the 6th door, and made 2 versions. One watermarked. One clean. Then I opened a burner email I'd set up years ago and started drafting a message. Not to Rachel. Not to Tyler. To 3 different PR firms. Subject line, urgent. Confidential footage involving Rachel Carter, influencer. No threats. No ransom. Just a teaser. A name. A date. A whisper of scandal. Enough to get someone curious. I didn't want money. I wanted collapse. Rachel had built this polished, filtered life online, called herself authentic in every post. But the woman in that video, that was the real her. And I was ready to show the world. The next part came quietly. No noise. No drama. Just code. I logged into a back-end admin panel from an old social platform I'd helped build security for. The project never launched, but the tools still worked. One of them scrubbed metadata from video files without ruining the quality. I stripped the location data, timestamps, audio markers, anything that could trace it back to me. Now it was clean, anonymous, a ghost file. Then I opened a new folder. I named it Tyler Threads. Inside, I started dropping everything I'd collected on him: screenshots, spreadsheets, emails, old corporate filings. I scraped his LinkedIn and matched it against property records, consulting agreements, archived blogs. Tyler was more than just a traitor. He was sloppy with money. Too many shell companies. Too many backdoor payments disguised as freelance consulting. None of it was illegal. Yeah. But it stank of fire. And I was holding the match. Then my inbox pinged. One of the PR firms had replied. Short message. Can we speak privately? This footage may carry legal implications. I ignored it. They weren't my audience. They were my amplifiers. By 3 a.m., I sat in the dark, bathed in blue light. My eyes weren't tired. Just locked in. Focused. I wasn't spiraling. I was orchestrating. This wasn't about revenge. This was about correcting something broken. Rachel had thrown away something sacred for likes and comments. Tyler had taken brotherhood and turned it into sport. They'd both made the same mistake. They thought I would just sit back and disappear like some sad, broken man. But they forgot one thing. I don't disappear. By the time the sun started bleeding into the sky, casting long gray streaks across the windows, I shut the laptop. Not because I was finished, but because I was ready. The house was still quiet. Rachel hadn't come out of the bedroom yet, probably lying there thinking about her next post. Or maybe, just maybe, starting to feel the walls close in. I sat out back on the porch, coffee steaming in my hands, watching nothing in particular. I'd been sitting there for over an hour when I finally heard her footsteps inside. She moved through the house like always, barefoot, silk robe barely tied, hair in a loose, intentional mess. She looked like the poster girl for her brand, natural, unbothered, just woke up like this. But the mirror doesn't show the fire until it cracks. Then it happened. She opened her phone. And I heard it. That sharp little inhale. That pause when your digital world punches you in the chest. Her breathing changed. 2 sharp breaths. Then faster ones. I didn't have to see her face to know. She came to the doorway, her phone clutched like it had bitten her. "Did you see this?" she asked, her voice strained. I didn't answer. Someone leaked something. A video. I don't know how, but it's out there. It's spreading. She looked at me. Really looked this time. "Did you?" I didn't blink. "Did I what?" She hesitated. Then backed off. "Nothing. I have to fix this." Fix it. That was her go-to. When her views dipped. When sponsors paused campaigns. When a post didn't get the engagement she expected. Everything was a problem to be managed. But this wasn't a bad week on Instagram. This was an avalanche. By lunchtime, her name was trending. Not because of some skincare routine or morning smoothie recipe. No, this time it was hashtags like #RachelCarterScandal and #6th-door video that started popping up. Screenshots were everywhere. Blurred clips were circulating in DMs, on forums, on gossip sites that love nothing more than watching a perfect life unravel. Some people swore it was fake. Others claimed they knew it all along. The nastiest ones connected timestamps, compared outfits, matched background music with old stories she'd posted. The internet was doing what it always does best: devour and destroy. And me? I didn't say a word. By early afternoon, 3 of her biggest brand deals dropped her. Emails rolled in, sterile, detached. In light of recent developments, we are suspending all collaborations. Please remove our branding from your content. We're conducting a reputation audit. Rachel looked like she was barely holding on. But she still tried. She came to me mid-afternoon, clutching her phone, eyes darting like she couldn't figure out if I was the villain or the last person who still cared. "If this is your idea of revenge," she said, voice trembling, "you've made your point." I looked at her, calm, clear. "I didn't make a point," I said. "I just stopped covering for the lie." She blinked. "What does that even mean?" I didn't answer. She wasn't ready to hear it. That evening, I passed by the living room and saw her in the same spot on the couch, curled up, knees to chest, laptop glowing in her lap. She wasn't typing, wasn't scrolling, just staring. The article she had open was from some mid-tier gossip site. Title read, "Perfect Wife? Internet star Rachel Carter caught in scandal." Beneath it, a wedding photo of us side by side with a blurred still from the video. She noticed me looking and snapped the laptop shut. Her voice cracked. "Do you hate me?" I thought about that. Really did. "No," I said quietly. "But I don't believe in you anymore." She flinched. And that, right there, that hit harder than if I'd screamed in her face. I walked away. Night came slow. The sky turned that deep, bruised navy. Clouds thick. Stars barely showing through the haze. I sat alone outside. Not because I wanted solitude, but because solitude was honest. Inside that house, everything was fake. Except for me. This wasn't the end. Not yet. The fall had only just begun. Tyler Bledsoe always had a formula. Smile wide, talk smooth, and keep moving forward. He was charm in a bottle. The kind of guy people trusted for no good reason. Women leaned in when he spoke. Men wanted to believe he was harmless. He made deals, shook hands, cracked jokes, and kept all his dirt buried 6 feet deep beneath his Rolex and slick haircut. But that morning, something had shifted. He sat at his sleek desk in his penthouse condo, floor-to-ceiling windows pouring LA sunlight across polished surfaces. Everything about the place screamed curated power. But the inbox on his screen? That was chaos. Subject: Immediate portfolio access suspended. Subject: Second ethics review, Malora Holdings. Subject: Urgent, internal audit request. 3 emails before 9 a.m. And that was before his phone started ringing. I wasn't anywhere near him. Didn't need to be. I already knew what was happening. Every step had been laid out, each file released with exact timing. Anonymous tips. Encrypted attachments. Just enough evidence to raise the right eyebrows. Tax inconsistencies. Corporate shells. Money that shouldn't be moving the way it was. It wasn't illegal yet. But it was enough to start fires. I pictured him sitting there, watching everything he built tremble at the edges. That smirk he always wore? Fading. That posture, shoulders back, chest out, starting to cave under weight he never thought he'd carry. This wasn't revenge. It was exposure. By lunchtime, the whispers were circulating. People I still knew in the industry, quiet voices from my time in private security, confirmed it. His access at the firm had been locked. His biggest client, a tech fund out of Miami, had already pulled out. The investors, nervous. The compliance team, digging. He was officially under review. That afternoon, Tyler tried to play it cool. He drove to the tennis club, same as always, thinking a little routine might steady him. The valet still smiled, but it was different. Hesitant. Inside, his usual circle was there. Drinks in hand. Laughing. But when he approached, the conversation dipped. Not a full stop. Just long enough for him to feel it. He laughed louder than he needed to. Made a joke. No one followed. Said he was launching a new project. Nobody asked what it was. He was starting to feel it now, the invisible weight of being watched. Not by me. Not by Rachel. But by the world he used to think was his. And while he tried to swim in shallow water, I was already setting up the final move of the day. That night, I drove out to Westwood, walked into a little private mailbox place tucked between a nail salon and a closed-down smoothie bar. I handed the guy behind the counter a sealed envelope, no return address. Inside were printouts, screenshots of bank records, corporate filings, statements that connected Tyler to a company called Malora Group, one he thought he'd dissolved a year ago. I added a simple, handwritten note. Check the shell. Follow the money. Ask him about Malora. That envelope was going to land on the desk of the firm's compliance officer the next morning. I didn't stick around to watch it happen. Didn't need to. The fuse was lit. Back at home, Rachel sat in the middle of our living room surrounded by half-packed PR boxes. All those carefully branded kits she used to unbox like they were sacred, they now looked like clutter. Dead weight. Ghosts of deals that would never go live. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Mentions. Terminations. Comment threads. She looked at me like I was the one holding the only lifeboat while she went under. But I had other targets now. Other names. Other doors that needed to open. That night, Tyler sat alone on the rooftop of his condo. LA stretched out before him in a grid of lights. He poured himself a drink, but his hand shook a little when he set the glass down. Then his phone lit up. A message from an unknown number. The higher the walls, the more glass they hide. No name. No threat. Just a sentence. He stared at it like it had teeth. And for the first time in a very long time, Tyler felt cold. The rain that followed wasn't loud. It didn't come with thunder. It just fell, slow and steady, soaking everything in a silence that made you feel small. And somewhere across the city, I stood under the overhang of an abandoned gas station, watching the pavement drown under the storm. A man in a hooded jacket handed me a sealed package. He didn't ask questions. He didn't expect thanks. Inside were 3 photographs. And a flash drive. No duplicates. Just one of each. Exactly what I asked for. Back home, I laid them out across the dining table. The first, Tyler entering a residence in Brentwood, his arm casually draped around a woman I didn't recognize. Second, Rachel, entering the same house on a different day. No wedding ring. The third, both of them, inside the house, unaware of the long lens watching from a rooftop nearby. They weren't kissing. They weren't touching. But the familiarity in their body language, undeniable. I stared at those photos for a long time. Not with anger, but with the kind of understanding that changes everything. Because whatever apologies Rachel thought she'd offer, I knew now they'd be hollow. And the worst part, she hadn't even tried to put out the fire. I got back home late that night. Rachel was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, staring at her phone like she was waiting for the screen to give her instructions on how to survive. She didn't look up when I walked in. "I called my mom today," she said quietly. I opened the cabinet, poured myself a glass of water. "She told me not to come," Rachel whispered. "Said I embarrassed the family. Told me to disappear for a while." I sipped from the glass slowly. "Maybe she's right," I said. That landed harder than anything else I'd said to her. She turned and looked at me, not angry, not defensive. Just broken. "Hello. Do you hate me?" she asked again. I set the glass down gently on the counter. "I think what hurts the most," I said, "is that I don't." She tried to speak. Tried to find words that might matter. But there was nothing left in the air between us. Just the sound of everything that used to mean something turning to dust. "I know I destroyed everything," she said. "I just didn't expect it to all collapse so fast." I crossed my arms, leaning back against the counter. "You lit the match at the foundation," I said. "Why are you surprised the house fell?" She hugged her arms around herself, shrinking in on whatever pieces she still had left. "We could try." "No," I said, my voice calm. "Final. We don't recover from this." Rachel turned away, and for the first time, I saw her fold in on herself. Not performative. Not staged. Just defeat. "So what now? You just walk away and let me drown?" she asked. I shook my head. You already drowned, I said. You just didn't notice until the air ran out. 2 hours later, she packed a bag. No big speech. No final dramatic moment. Just a quiet exit. I watched from the window as her car pulled out of the driveway under the soft wash of rain, her taillights disappearing into the street like the last chapter of a book I hadn't wanted to read. But she didn't know what I knew. Not yet. Because those photos, that flash drive, they weren't meant for her. They were meant for him. The next morning, Tyler came home to find an envelope under his door. No return address. One word written on it in blocky black ink. Brother. Inside were the photographs. And a typed note. You took what wasn't yours. Now I'll take what's left of you. He didn't move for a while. Just stood there in the doorway, fingers trembling, staring at proof that someone out there had seen it all. That someone knew. Outside, the morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that doesn't comfort, it warns. Somewhere else in the city, I stood in the garage with the door halfway open, the morning light barely touching the floor. In my hands was another envelope, this one with my name on it. Familiar handwriting. Rachel. Of course she'd try one last time. People always do. I opened it. There was no apology. No request for forgiveness. Just the truth. And I was ready to read it. Jake, I know I've used up whatever right I had to your time, but I need to say this. Not for pity. Not for redemption. Just to give you the truth, the unfiltered kind, the kind I never gave when I still had the chance. I didn't plan to betray you. It wasn't some grand decision. It happened slowly. One missed moment at a time. You'd reach for me, and I'd already be somewhere else. I felt invisible, and instead of telling you, I disappeared into silence. And then into him. Tyler was a mistake I made over and over. Not because I loved him, but because he made me forget how badly I was failing you. I told myself I deserved more, even though I hadn't earned any of it. You were steady, loyal, present, and I ran from that, because deep down, I didn't feel worthy of it. I know I should have said all this to your face. But I could see it, you wouldn't look at me anymore. And I don't blame you. Not for what you've done. Not for what's coming next. I hope, in the quiet you've claimed, there's at least peace. And maybe, far down the road, there's still a corner of your heart that remembers what we had, before we lost it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just for you to know. I never stopped loving you. Even while I was destroying you. I folded the letter and set it down on the workbench like it was something fragile. I didn't cry. Didn't rage. Just stood there in the stillness, letting it settle around me. Later that afternoon, I drove up into the hills. To a bluff we used to visit before life got too complicated. A quiet place with a view of the city and no one around to ask questions. I brought the letter. The photographs. The flash drive. I laid everything out on a flat stone and poured a circle of lighter fluid around it. Then I struck a match. The fire caught fast. I stepped back and watched it burn, words curling into smoke, faces warping in heat, data turning into ash. It wasn't vengeance I felt. It was closure. There was more ahead. I wasn't done with Tyler. Not entirely. But this chapter, this marriage, this lie, it was over. As the last corner of the letter turned to flame, a breeze picked up and carried the ashes into the sky. I turned my back on it all. And I didn't look back. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.